Welcome to the Summer Food Service Program Frontline Staff Training. Today I will provide you with the information you need to be a successful site supervisor, monitor, meal preparation employee, or a volunteer. My name is Cheryl Harris. I am administratively responsible for the sites you will be operating. I look forward to working closely with each of you to ensure that we have a great summer providing food and fun to the children in our community. Thank you for your participation in the Summer Food Service Program for the children of Buncombe County. Through your help and commitment in the summer of 2015, 72,309 meals were consumed by the children in our community. This training is essential in order for this program to be effective and within our state and federal regulations. Training is not complete until all the proper paperwork has been submitted. These 3 pages are labeled Verification of SFSP Training and are found at the conclusion of the video. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Topics being covered in today's training include goals of the program, site definition and eligibility, site information, meal pattern requirements, site operations and duties, record keeping, meal service requirements, and civil rights. The first goal of the Summer Food Service Program is to serve nutritious meals that meet the Summer Food Service Program meal pattern requirements and are appetizing to needy children. Meal pattern requirements help to ensure that needy children are receiving the nutrients they need. We will discuss these meal pattern requirements in detail later in this training. The second goal of the Summer Food Service Program is to benefit your existing program by providing meals at no cost to children in the community. Please advertise this benefit to your participants and their families. We will discuss advertising and public notification later in this training. A site is defined as the approved physical location where free meals are served to needy children and consumed in a supervised setting. Needy children means children from families whose incomes are equal to or below the Secretary's guidelines for determining eligibility for reduced price school meals. To further clarify, a child is considered a person 18 years old or younger. Exceptions can be made for mentally or physically disabled persons 19 years of age or older that are involved in a public or private school program for a disability. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you ever have a question about whether or not someone is eligible to receive free meals. Also, supervised means that at least one trained SFSP staff must be present during the entire meal service, and the children must consume the meal on the site under your supervision. Children cannot pick up a meal or leave your site location. This supervision can be conducted by any trained SFSP staff, including the site supervisor, monitor, or volunteer. Let's take a moment to briefly mention the responsibilities of these different positions. The site supervisor is the designated personnel who is responsible for ensuring meals are served to children within the guidelines and maintaining accurate records. Other trained staff and volunteers assist the site supervisor. There will be 2 Buncombe County school monitors and myself conducting monitoring reviews, picking up documentation from your sites weekly, and assisting with administrative SFSP duties. During this training, we will refer to all positions as trained SFSP staff or frontline staff. The sites we'll be operating this year are located throughout Buncombe County. Representatives from the state agency may also conduct an unannounced review at your site to assess program compliance. Listen carefully to the information provided in this training so that your program reviews will go smoothly. Now we will discuss the meal pattern that is required for breakfast, lunch, and snack. Your site may participate in breakfast and lunch or lunch and snack as determined by your application. A reimbursable breakfast must contain the minimum requirements of the following meal components: 1 8 fluid ounce serving of cow's milk, 1 half cup serving of vegetable or fruit. 100% juice may be served as one of your fruit vegetable components, 1 serving of grain or bread, and a 1 ounce serving of meat or meat alternative is optional. An example of a typical breakfast that will be served is a chicken biscuit, seasonal fresh fruit, and white or chocolate milk. Lunch will have the same meal pattern requirements and include 1 8 fluid ounce serving of cow's milk, 2 or more servings of fruits and vegetables that must equal a minimum of 3/4 of a cup, 1 serving of grain or bread, and unlike breakfast where the meal component was optional, for lunch it is required. Each meal must contain a minimum serving of 2 ounces of a meat or a meat alternative component. An example of a typical lunch that is served is an Italian super sub, fresh vegetable medley, and a white or chocolate milk. Snacks are served either mid-morning or in the afternoon and must contain 2 different food components from the 4 required components. Milk and juice may not be served together. A fruit-vegetable component for snack must equal a minimum serving of 6 ounces or 3/4 of a cup. So, if you serve 100% fruit juice during snack time, it must be 6-ounce serving. Lastly, the meat alternative component must be at least 1 ounce. An example of a typical snack that will be served is goldfish crackers and baby carrots with ranch, or raisins, 100% fruit juice, and elf grams. 8 fluid ounces of pasteurized cow's milk must be served to every child at every meal service, except for snacks, for first and second meals. Unless the child has medical documentation signed by a physician of a disability, all children must receive milk. Here is the menu for our Buncombe County Schools summer meal service. Each site will be provided with a copy of this menu. If you have any questions or concerns about the menu items, please contact me at 777-1390. This is the medical documentation form provided by the state agency. If a child has a medical condition that prevents them from receiving all of the required meal components at your site, submit this documentation to me so I can keep it on file. Otherwise, it is your responsibility as Frontline staff to make sure that all the required meal components are present. Please contact Cheryl Harris at 777-1390 if you are missing a meal component or if your meals do not meet the minimum meal pattern requirements. This form is available in English and in Spanish. Make sure your site does not make one of these common mistakes. Any item labeled with the wording cheese product or imitation cheeses does not meet the meal pattern requirements. Always double check your cheeses, especially American cheese, to ensure you are meeting requirements and offering the highest level of nutrition to the children you are serving. Your site is required to have unitized meals delivered. A meal is considered unitized when all meal components are packaged, delivered, and served as a unit. Milk and juice may be separate. If meals are delivered to you and they are not unitized, please contact me immediately at 777-1390. A share table is a designated area at the site where children may place unopened food items they do not wish to consume, and other children have the opportunity to take these items. Some examples of items you might see on a share table are unopened pints of milk or unopened applesauce. When placed on the table, these items should be stored properly, meaning hot foods kept hot and cold foods kept cold. For example, items like milk should be placed in a bowl or a container of ice. Perishable items must be thrown away at the end of service. Shelf-stable items can be left on the share table. However, no food can be reserved as part of a reimbursable meal. Recycling food items means serving an item as part of a reimbursable SFSP meal that was previously served to a child but was not consumed. Recycling food items is not allowed. It is unallowable to recycle meal components on the share table or meals that are missing or have inadequate components. For example, Susie got a complete meal on Monday, but she did not eat the fruit cup. The site supervisor cannot serve that fruit cup the next day as part of an SFSP reimbursable meal. However, Susie can put her fruit cup on the share table for another child to take. Since this fruit cup is shelf-stable, the fruit cup can remain on the share table. Order only the number of meals that you need. The SFSP regulations require that sites order meals with the intent of serving 1 meal per child in attendance. Contact me or your delivery kitchen to change the number of meals delivered if there are too many leftovers or there are not enough meals to serve all the children. Since the goal of the summer food service program is to provide 1 meal per child in attendance, the site and sponsor must maintain good communication throughout the summer. This includes regularly communicating to the sponsor when the number of meals prepared or delivered should be adjusted. Again, it is required that sites prepare or deliver meals with the goal of serving 1 meal to each child in attendance. Now, there are a few meal service requirements that need to be discussed. The first is time restrictions on deliveries. Since you are receiving meals from a Buncombe County Schools food preparation kitchen, the meals may not be delivered greater than 1 hour before the approved meal service times unless you have proper storage facilities on site to store the food. Proper storage includes, but is not limited to, an electric refrigerator for cold foods and electric warmers or ovens for hot foods. You may not keep food in a cooler greater than 1 hour. You must serve food that is the correct temperature. The temperature danger zone for foods is the range of temperatures where toxic or harmful bacteria can grow most rapidly. The temperature of 45 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit is considered to be the temperature danger zone. Food that is served in the temperature danger zone is potentially hazardous. Checking the food temperature with a thermometer is essential to safety because spoiled food does not always show visible signs. Sometimes food may look and smell okay, but toxic bacteria is actually growing. You are responsible for ensuring hot food remains hot and cold food remains cold. Trained SFSP staff are responsible for checking temperatures for each meal component upon delivery and prior to meal service. This is the SFSP delivery receipt. It must be completed by the central kitchen and the site supervisor. Here is the step-by-step breakdown for filling out a delivery receipt at the central kitchen. First, complete the top portion of the delivery receipt with the name of the central kitchen, the date, the site name, and circle the meal that is being delivered. Then, write in the meal items being delivered under the appropriate column. Count the items being delivered. Rather than indicating 1 pan of green beans, for example, it is important that you indicate individual servings. Check and record temperatures of all items, making sure that hot foods are 135 degrees or above and cold foods are 45 degrees or below. Record the time the food leaves the kitchen. If everything is correct, sign and date the delivery receipt. Otherwise, adjust the delivery receipt and correct the problem. Here is the step-by-step breakdown for filling out a delivery receipt at the site. When the food arrives at your site, make sure the central kitchen has signed the delivery receipt. If they have not filled out the delivery receipt properly, you should ask the central kitchen representative before leaving the site or contact me immediately for assistance. Also, before the delivery person leaves your site, you should count the items delivered to make sure that it matches the delivery receipt and record the number. Match the items on the delivery receipt to the items delivered. Example, if the delivery receipt says apples were delivered, apples should be provided. Check and record temperatures of all items. Record the time the food was delivered. If everything is correct, sign and date the delivery receipt. If the delivery receipt is not correct, do not sign the receipt without clearly writing on the receipt the problems with your site's delivery. Keep 1 copy to give to the central kitchen representative, which is usually the delivery person. Never serve spoiled food or incomplete meals to children. Immediately notify the sponsor of problems. Remember, it is mandatory that central kitchen sites keep accurate and fully complete delivery receipts for every meal. This is a sample delivery receipt. Notice that all of the information is filled in correctly. Now that the meals have been received, you must provide them to the children as complete meals. A complete meal meets or exceeds the minimum serving size of all meal components in regards to the meal type. What would you do in the following situation? A child says, "No, thank you, I do not like milk," when given a milk carton with their bag at a local park during lunch meal service. One of two things. Situation 1. If the child has a documented medical condition or a disability on file, they may refuse the milk, and a juice is an acceptable substitute for a drink. Situation 2. If the child does not have a documented medical condition, the child must take the milk to complete their meal. They may place it on the share table if they do not want the milk. The milk must be disposed of at the end of service time. Point of service meal counts are the process by which a trained SFSP staff person counts a meal when the child receives a complete meal. Most sites have the children form a line. The site staff or volunteer makes a tally mark on the daily meal count sheet each time a complete meal is given to a child. This is an example of a daily meal count form. You will see the tally marks under First Meals Served to Children that I just discussed. This form must be completed fully and accurately for every meal service. All blanks should be filled, even if the answer is 0. It is very important to remember that all blanks should be filled. Site supervisors must utilize a test meal at each meal service. A test meal is used to make sure temperatures are safe prior to meal service. If the site supervisor chooses a test meal, indicated on the daily meal count form is pictured. You should not give a child a test meal. In order for the daily meal count to be valid, it must be signed by the site supervisor. Your driver or assigned monitor will be picking up daily count sheets from your sites on the next day of service or by the Friday of each week. If you have delivery receipts, they will also be picked up at that time. If your site needs to print additional daily meal count sheets or delivery receipts, please contact me. Let's see how well you answer the following questions about this sample daily meal count sheet. Question: how many first meals were served to children? The answer is 15. Question: who is the site supervisor? Answer: Mickey Mouse. Question: what type of meal is being served? Answer: lunch. Question: how many total complete meals were available? Answer: 18. Question: how many second meals were served to children? Answer: 2. Question: how many test meals were used to determine the meal component temperatures were safe? Answer: 1. Now, let's talk a little bit more about second meals. The Summer Food Service Program provides meal service in the following order. All first meals must be served to eligible children, then second meals, and finally adult meals may be served. Second meals are meals served to eligible children after all other eligible children have received a first meal. In order for a second meal to count, you must serve all required meal components. There are also 2 different types of adult meals: program adults and non-program adults. Neither of these meals are reimbursable, however, they must be documented on the daily meal count sheet. A program adult may be a volunteer or an employee involved in the Summer Food Service Program, while a non-program adult may be the parent guardian of a child. In order for meals to be reimbursable, they must also be served at an approved site. This is the address approved by the state agency as it is listed on your site application. If your SFSP meals are not served at the physical address on your application, please contact me. There are only 2 exceptions to this rule. Number 1, After consuming the majority of the meal on site and in your supervision, a child may take the fruit or vegetable or grain component off-site. For example, taking a small apple, crackers, or a pack of carrot sticks off-site after they have finished the rest of their meal is acceptable. However, a child may not take a carton of milk off-site. Each child can only take a single component to eat later. Number 2, if you are planning a field trip, tell me in writing a week in advance by emailing me at cheryl.harris@bcsemail.org so that I can submit a field trip request form to the state agency. It is important that this notification be made 1 week prior to the field trip date, so please do not wait until the last minute. If the field trip is approved, you are welcome to take meals off-site for the day, as indicated on your field trip request form. Remember, these meals must meet the minimum meal pattern requirements. If you already know the dates of your field trips, please submit these dates to me as soon as possible. One of the most common program violations is meals served outside of the approved meal service time. The meal service times are listed on your site application that must be approved for your location. If you feel changes should be made, please contact me in writing at cheryl.harris@bcsemail.org. As mentioned earlier, I will be checking that you adhere to your meal service times during various monitoring reviews throughout the summer. Site supervisors, if you feel that your program would be more successful by adjusting your meal service time, contact me to make these arrangements first, and I will assure that the change is made. Now we will discuss civil rights. Summer Food Service Program Frontline staff must abide by the civil rights statutes, regulations, and policies. According to FNS Instruction 113-1, there are 6 protected classes. They are race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability. This means that you must provide meals to eligible children at your approved sites regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. What is discrimination? Discrimination is defined as the act of distinguishing one person or group of persons from others. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination in federally funded programs, including the Summer Food Service Program. It is mandatory that the "And Justice for All" poster be displayed in a prominent place where SFSP business is conducted. In the past, the best location for summer feeding has been to have the poster taped to the table where meals are handed out. If you need additional posters, contact me and I will request these posters from the state agency. This poster contains the non-discrimination statement and instructions on how to file a complaint. If I or a representative from the state agency visit your site and this poster is not displayed in a prominent location, it will be cited as a program violation. This is a copy of the non-discrimination statement and the information necessary for filing a complaint. Notice that all of the 6 protected classes are listed in this statement. There are 9 civil rights compliance areas that need to be addressed. They are collection and use of data, effective public notification systems, complaint procedures, compliance reviews, resolution of noncompliance, requirements for reasonable accommodation of persons with disabilities, requirements for language assistant, conflict resolution, and customer service. Let's review each of these in more detail. Every person has both an ethnicity and a race. Summer Food Service Program regulation requires participant ethnic and racial data to be collected by way of visual identification or self-identification. The ethnic categories are Hispanic or Latino and not Hispanic or Latino. Racial categories include American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white. A person can only have one ethnicity, but they may identify with more than one race. For example, Susie's ethnicity is not Hispanic or Latino, and she identifies her race to be both white and Asian. Data collected must be restricted to authorized personnel only. Now let's discuss compliance area number 2, effective public notification systems. The purpose of public notification is to inform the public about our program availability, program rights and responsibilities, the policy of non-discrimination, and the procedure for filing a complaint. Examples of information distribution include television, radio, internet, and brochures. Buncombe County Schools will issue an annual media release. However, it is important to utilize the resources mentioned to notify others about your program availability, program rights and responsibilities, the policy of non-discrimination, and the procedure for filing a complaint. As mentioned earlier, the And Justice for All posters contains the non-discrimination statement and instructions on how to file a complaint. If I or a representative from the state agency visit your site and this poster is not displayed in a prominent location, it will be cited as a program violation. Now let's discuss the third area of compliance. Contact me immediately if you are faced with a written or verbal complaint alleging discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. You may remember that these are the 6 protected classes. I am required to report all written or verbal complaints to the state agency within a very specific time frame. I need your assistance to ensure that complaints are handled appropriately and in a timely manner. Compliance reviews are the next area we will discuss. The 3 types of reviews are the pre-approval or pre-award compliance review, the post-award or the routine compliance review, or the special compliance review. The main purpose of these reviews are to evaluate compliance with civil rights laws, regulations, policies, instructions, and guidance. Compliance area number 5 is resolution of noncompliance. Noncompliance is the factual finding that any civil rights requirement as provided by law, regulation, policy, instruction, or guidelines is not being adhered to. I am required to report all instances of noncompliance to the state agency within a very specific time frame. I need your assistance to ensure that noncompliance is resolved appropriately and in a timely manner. Compliance area number 6 requires reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities. This means that you must ensure that persons with disabilities have accessibility to the program, easy access to the building where meal service is provided, and effective communication with staff. For example, it is important that a wheelchair ramp be provided for persons requiring this type of assistance to participate in meal service at your site. Now let's discuss communication barriers in more detail with compliance area number 7. We are required to ensure that assistance will be available when needed for potentially eligible summer food service program participants. Language assistance, for example, would provide program services for LEP persons. Individuals who do not speak English as their primary language or who have limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English are persons with limited English proficiency or LEP. What language will the majority of your participants speak? For example, if the majority of the children you are serving speak Spanish, the frontline staff at that location should be able to communicate easily with the participants. What will you do when someone wants to participate in a summer food service program who speaks another language? You must be prepared for this situation. Suggestions may include basic translation cards or utilizing a translation service provided by the phone company. Conflict comes about from differences in needs, values, and motivations. Conflict is not a problem in itself. It is what we do with it that counts. The Conflict Resolution Network is a great resource if you are seeking guidance on conflict resolution. The Conflict Resolution Network also has a 12-step approach for resolving conflict. These skills can help in everyday life as well as in your professional life. Let's take a look at these 12 skills. The first skill is called the win-win approach. The win-win approach is about changing the conflict from attack and defense to cooperation. It is a powerful shift of attitude that alters the whole course of communication. Next, the creative response to conflict is about turning problems into possibilities. It is about choosing to see what can be done rather than settling. Life is not about winning or losing, it's about learning. The third skill is empathy. Empathy is about rapport and openness between people. When it is absent, people are less likely to consider your needs and feelings. The best way to build empathy is to help the other person feel that they are understood. The fourth skill is appropriate assertiveness, which is being able to state your case without arousing the defenses of other people. The secret of success lies in explaining how you feel rather than telling the person what they should or shouldn't do. Let's move on to the next 4 skills. The next skill is called cooperative power. When faced with a statement that has potential to create conflict, ask open questions and avoid a defensive response. Redirect your discussion to focus on positive possibilities. The sixth skill, managing emotions, has to do with people's behaviors. Everyone is looking for ways to belong, feel significant, and self-protect. When people feel threatened, a downward spiral can begin. People can be led into obstructive behaviors in the false belief that this will gain them a place of belonging and significance. How we respond to difficult behaviors is very important. Respect their needs and be positive. Willingness to resolve has to do more with yourself. Self-awareness is necessary if we are to see reality. The eighth skill is mapping the conflict. You should define the issue and the conflict in neutral terms that all parties would agree on. The final skills include development of options, introduction to negotiation, introduction to mediation, and broadening perspectives. When you are developing options to resolve your conflict, consider these questions. Is it built on a win-win approach? Does it meet the needs of all the parties? Is it feasible? Is it fair? Does it solve the problem? In the skills Introduction to Negotiation and Introduction to Mediation, you will plan and apply effective strategies to reach the agreement and move toward a solution everyone can agree on. Lastly, remember to broaden your perspective. We all have distinctive viewpoints that may be equally valid from where we stand. Each person's viewpoint makes a contribution to the whole and requires consideration and respect in order to form a complete solution. Let's work together and make sure these 12 skills are utilized to resolve any conflict we may face in the future. Now let's move on to compliance area number 9, customer service. One of the best ways to ensure compliance with civil rights laws and ensure that we treat everyone the same is to provide excellent customer service. You are constantly interacting with customers when operating the summer food service program. Your customers are the children you serve, the family members that may bring them to your meal service location, your team members of trained SFSP staff, or anyone who needs information from you. The following relationship skills can help you ensure that superb customer service is provided at your sites. Professionalism, listening skills, availability, responsiveness, and reliability. To conclude with the civil rights portion of our training, all summer food service program staff and volunteers must abide by the civil rights statutes, regulations, and policies that we have discussed. If you have additional questions regarding civil rights, contact the United States Department of Justice or the state agency. Finally, I'd like to share a short video with you called The Role of the Site Supervisor in the Summer Food Service Program. While your role may not be the site supervisor, this video shows a great example of how a site should operate in the Summer Food Service Program. Click on the above link to watch the 12-minute video. It will begin about 15 seconds after you launch. In order to operate as a site in the Summer Food Service Program, a contractual agreement between the sponsor and the site must be reviewed and signed. Let's take a few moments to summarize what the agreement says. In signing this document, the site authorized signer agrees to attend all training sessions, including follow-up training sessions if they are required throughout the summer, serve meals to all needy children ages 18 and under, or persons 19 and over who are mentally or physically disabled, enrolled in public or private school program for the disability. Enforce on-site meal consumption by ensuring that no meals are removed from the site without prior approval from sponsor representative. Provide adequate supervision during meal service with accurate point-of-service meal counts. Immediately notify Cheryl Harris at 777-1390 if meals are not delivered at the scheduled times. Immediately report to the sponsor any changes in the number of meals required to provide one meal to every eligible child in attendance. Remember, attendance will fluctuate throughout the summer, and communication is the key to success. Conduct criminal background screens and employ no one with a felony or misdemeanor or listed in the sex offender registry. Inspect and take temperatures of meals delivered or prepared. Refuse to receive or serve meals that are spoiled, frozen, damaged, unsafe, and not within appropriate temperature ranges. Immediately notify the sponsor of any meal service times that need to be changed. Do not change the meal service time without prior approval from the sponsor. Report immediately any other problems in regard to meal service. Comply with the FNS Instruction 113-1, the Civil Rights Compliance and Enforcement. Maintain and submit on a timely basis reports and records as required by the sponsor. Abide in all SFSP regulations and special instructions that have been provided by the sponsor. And lastly, for those extreme and consistent failures, after redirection and training to allow regulation, the site agrees to be responsible to the sponsor for the reimbursement of all disallowed meals. These disallowed meals may be a result of failure in order to prepare with the intent to serve one meal per child, or keeping inadequate or incorrect meal accounts. Remember that it is required for sites to adhere to the SFSP regulation as instructed by the sponsor. Any violation to these guidelines may result in the termination of your site from the Summer Food Service Program. We all must work together efficiently and effectively in order to provide this much-needed program to our children of Buncombe County. There are state and federal guidelines that must be followed. Please do not hesitate to contact Cheryl Harris, your assigned monitor, or your manager of the Delivery Preparation Kitchens if you have any questions. Before we conclude with today's training, it is important that you are prepared for a potential emergency situation during the Summer Food Service Program. In the event of an extreme emergency, please contact the police or fire department by calling 911. If a non-threatening incident needs to be reported, contact Cheryl Harris at 777-1390 as soon as possible. You will also be provided with your assigned monitor's phone contact information at the beginning of the food service program. Thank you for being a part of our Summer Food Service Program. You have now received important information regarding the goal of the program, site definition and eligibility, site information, meal pattern requirements, site operations and duties, record keeping, meal service requirements, and civil rights training. Please forward any questions that you may have to cheryl.harris@bcsemail.org, or you may contact me at either of the two numbers listed. Thank you.